All right. So thanks, everyone, and hello. Um, I'm Maria, and I will be talking about different concepts. It's like a wordplay today. So we will start, it will be about the glue rolls. It will be a lot about change. So I'm very happy to hear Sonia. It was very surprising and in a very good way talk. And thank you for presenting it in such a great way. I think we are all in this change, ever changing environment. And this is also what we will be talking here today. So, glue roles, unFramework, and collaboration. Let's see how this all comes together. So, just before this one, let me check. So, just a few things about me for those who don't know me. I'm Maria, and my name is Maria Chec. I am from Poland, so I can spell and pronounce Milian's name. And I live in Spain, so that's why the flags. Um, I am an agile coach, and I am really a glue roll, but because maybe not everyone understands what that means, I just say I'm an agile coach, which it resonates better. I am a content creator, so you can check my YouTube channel, and on Substack, it's the Agile State of Mind. And I'm also a professional Kanban trainer. So, a lot of things. You can follow me on LinkedIn and we can continue talking. And now I would like to let me just check what's going on here because somehow this is going to this. I lost the yeah, it went too far. So let me just start back. Yeah, those slides change. Okay, now.
Oh, yes, celebrate mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank
Like,
you for modeling
life
the way.
happens. So now, whatever happens next, feel free. So life happens, and that's how it happens if you have two screens and four computers. So the feedback. I wanted to start the talk from the feedback a role in a company received. And that was precisely what it said. If you do nothing, you're already helping me. So your framework is creating me more work and not solving my problems. So you can imagine that it doesn't feel really great when you get this kind of feedback in a role. And even if you don't take it personally, because of course it's a role, it's not great to be regarded in this manner, right? So so today I want to explore what happened here. Why a role in a company got this kind of feedback and why this kind of feedback was given. And to me, it is it's a specific role in a specific company. You would say, well, how does that concern me? Well, to me, this is a symbol of a bigger problem that we are facing in the industry right now. And as we all know, we have am I breaking up? Because somebody wrote this, so just in case. No,
Oh,
you're fine.
I can hear you fine.
All right, thank you. So I think we are not facing turbulent times. We are in turbulent times. And we all know what happened with so many layoffs and problems that happened to the role and to agile on its own. We all heard about the death of agile, the end of Scrum, and so on. And that's, for me, that's not only the result of economic pressures, it's really a reevaluation of roles. And some of them are just deemed non-essential. And especially if we get this kind of feedback, that's a problem that we can solve. And I would like to talk today about this introduction of the glue roles, what it means, how we can unframework our organizations, and how we can turn things around. Because I don't want it to be like a doom and gloom conference talk. I think we are all here to work for a better future. And somebody mentioned the future of work, and that's precisely what we are gonna see here. So to show you how we can turn things around. This was the feedback after I started working with a team. It's not just for me to boast about how great I am. It's more to show that the things can be turned around. And the feedback was that Maria changed my mind about the role, and that the previous collaboration wasn't really a collaboration. It was more like the person felt that the role was bringing me more work and instead of helping, and that with me it was completely different. So I would like to explore a little bit what can we do and how we can step up our game so that this doesn't happen. So we are now getting into this, what I said at the beginning, and this future of work resonates with me that somebody said at the end in the comments and in the questions, because we have, I'm working as well. So this talk will be featured in a book by Ben Walder and Olina. You know them probably from the visual agile coach playbook. So we are working now on an open source book. And if you have ideas for the future of work, feel free to reach out, because that's precisely what we need in these turbulent times. We want to see some light in the tunnel, some pink glasses view of the world, and let's create that future together. So about a little bit about my journey. So why I started talking about the glue roles. It's really because I worked in so many roles, and at some point I was like, it doesn't really matter what my role was, what was the name of my role. What I was doing was kind of gluing people together, helping them collaborate. So that journey, so I started as a scrum master and agile coach. I know there is a difference, but in my experience, what really made the role wasn't much of a difference. Then I worked as a release train engineer, a head of agile, a product operations manager, and that's where this anecdote comes from, where I was presented with a team of RTEs that faced significant challenges in how they were regarded and the perception of how they collaborated with people, and about this history of strained relationships and low morale that had become not a great reputation for them. And then I work also as a technical project manager. And this is also funny because, in the agile world, talking about project management is always a thing. But that's why I would like today to talk about how this all can be together. And in the end, what brings us, what gives this, what is this flavor of making it in the role and getting it to the next level is really the collaboration. And I am biased for collaboration, so you will always see me trying to connect people together, making them talk to each other. And for this, I realized that sometimes we just need to kind of unframework our organization, like strip it from the rigidness of the processes, because some roles are very connected to a framework, and this can hinder the great things they can do because they consider they are those soldiers of a framework. And that's why I think that collaboration is key. And that's why everything that I do, in the end, I call it like collaboration 2.0. We just need to leverage the collaboration. So the glue roles, let's explain a little bit what I mean by that. So the glue role is really what it says, right? We help other people succeed, and we bring people together. So it's ironically because we're gluing people together, but really to unstick the organization. so they get unstuck and can start working better together. And I consider this role as a flag bearer of collaboration, hence the flag. So with the move to AI, and I don't know if you noticed that even today, like I am a bit scared of that future with AI. And even to like over this weekend, we suddenly have DeepSeek, which sounds a bit like deep fake Chinese AI platform that suddenly got super broke to the first place in all the app stores, and we have a big crash of Nvidia chips. So if you haven't checked out headlines today, and the change is so rapid and so overwhelming, and we cannot escape automation. So I think it's a bit correlated to going into this more generalist role, a glue role that's a generalist, that is an adept person at using AI and helping to maybe automate those repetitive, mundane tasks. So the person that uses AI as a teammate, but is still able to show the value of collaboration, of connection, and the relationships with people. Because in the end, we can do all we want and make the world very robotic. We still need those people that will glue those different parts in the company together and help navigating the organization. So, coming back to this anecdote from my life, when I joined and I was presented with that role that has lost its charm and people were complaining about it, I decided to do a workshop and understand and ask people around. So I did a workshop and I did some surveys and trying to check, okay, what was missing? Why, what's going on, and what are the biggest challenges and issues? And what happened was I was presented with a lot of anti-patterns and also some patterns to follow. And I consider it's always good to look at those anti-patterns as well. Even though we have a goal and we know what we want, it's really good to also mention what we don't want, because, you might just in case not want somebody to be a Jira cup. So I decided to go for both. Like, okay, hey, we have a list of everything that is not really working and a list of what we really want. So as you see here, you probably resonates with you, the Jira cup, somebody throwing a Jira issue at you and like, update, goodbye, come back when it's updated, and I disappear. Or, the report driven bot like individual that crawls and then tells you to send an update. So because there is a report to fill in, but the person doesn't really understand what the update is about. So if there is something that the other manager doesn't understand, you have to come back and ask because they don't know. So it becomes like a messenger of statuses, and nobody sees much. Somebody writes that he is guilty of being a Jira cup. We all are in the end, right? So yeah, and then we also have change enforcers. So sometimes we see this anti-pattern of this change is happening. This is what we do now. That's it. Like, right? You change, you do this. Or we also have a clipboard project manager, of course, and a micromanager. What strikes me here is that there was this other part in here. So there was this like, okay, we see the behaviors, but then we also see this lack of soft skills. So there were a lot of those, people were saying like, I lack empathy. I really have a lot to do. And I'm just asked all the time to update something somewhere. And there's more, those pages, Confluence pages popping up and different spreadsheets popping up. And suddenly you have so many places to update it. Like, just use Jira. But no, we love to pop up with a lot of places. So, and those people, and it's like, there is lack of empathy. There is the lack of understanding of strategy, company, or the role itself. Sometimes we also have so many roles we don't even know what they serve. And we had that problem as well. And then there was relying on the process. So there's this one thing like, we create this new process and we kind of become this process enforcer instead of being agile in the approach and checking if that process actually works. Oh, it's not working for your team. Sorry, that's the policy right now. And maybe we can do something, right? We can do a feedback loop and improve it. No, we just decided this is the new process. That's what it is. And last but not least, not developing relationships with the main stakeholders, talking about collaboration, right? So this lack of connection and relationships makes it, we are not in the great position to even like defend this role later on because we never had a relationship with these people. They seemed like a bot from Slack reminding us to update some report. So that's an interesting topic. And, you know, the frameworks made me do it. It's not my fault. If you probably heard of Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication. I love watching his nonviolent communication training in Oakland. It's on YouTube. It's a terrible, for today's standards, it's a terrible quality, but great workshop. It's 3 hours, and I sometimes watch it like in episodes because you can't just watch 3 hours. But he's great person, and he explains this concept that's called Armsprache, which is, I pronounce it terribly from German, but it's a language in which you deny responsibility for your actions. And this kind of following those frameworks and just being this Jira cap and status police reminds me a lot about that. It's like, that's company policy. You have to do it. I had to ask you. I had to do this. It's not my responsibility. I was made to do this. So this is a very dangerous concept because this way you just detach yourself from your actions. You just do what is expected of you. And that's sometimes what we saw in all of this framework pursuit. So let's talk about the frameworks now and why the glue role for me in my head goes with this unFramework necessity. So we have this off-the-shelf frameworks. I know this picture is disturbing, isn't it? But I put it on, it disturbs me. I couldn't look at it when I was preparing the presentation, but I thought that's what it is. It's like we take this, the frameworks provide this convenience of off-the-shelf pre-cooked meal. We just have it, we use it, right? It gives us this certainty illusion and security, like maybe false, but it's there. Everyone is talking about frameworks, doing frameworks. So yeah, that's why we are drawn to frameworks. And sometimes I also think that it's partially probably as well the part of lack of confidence. I don't have confidence. I will use something that will give me a bit of confidence, right? Or lack of imagination, lack of creativity. But can we blame those people? Like I think about a VP of product or a VP of engineering being tasked with create a process. I want this team to work together. And now suddenly we will have probably twice the number of teams. So I cannot blame those people for reaching out for some checked, tested solution because as somebody says, it lowers cognitive load. I already have so much on my plate. I'm not going to now invent my own Spotify model, right? So I will just use something that's there. But what it leads to is this frameworks fatigue. And that's also the distinction sometimes that you see between the leaders and the practitioners. Usually who has the framework fatigue is the practitioners, not the leaders that enforce that framework, because they are the ones that have to deal with the everyday life in the framework. And people complain about the framework because sometimes it increases the hierarchy. It makes the ceremonies, right? We we try to uncheck this language, so we don't talk about ceremonies anymore. We talk about events, but they feel like this sermon that you go to and you have to, and your mom forced you to go to church on Sunday and you are there because the manager told you to go, right? And it just becomes so unbearably overwhelming and heavy and rigid. And on the other hand, it's also this overpromise, underdeliver. There was a book called Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, right? So talking about over promise and underdelivering. And sometimes I really felt that people are just feeling like, all the rules killed our vibe. We were just good enough before this came about. And yeah, and that's the thing. And you just wrote that, right? Matthias comes back to treating humans as humans. Like, who needs a framework without a soul? Who We can't stand it anymore. No one wants a soulless mechanical process that drains the joy out of the day job, because that's the other thing. Like, we spend so much time at work. Do we really have to force ourselves every day to do it, or we can really create this process that will work for us, and this collaboration where we know we can count on each other, where we have psychological safety to commit some mistakes, like not sharing properly your screen, and that will be okay, right? Nobody will blame me for that until the next month when somebody else commits another mistake. So I would really want to focus our whatever we do on this becoming more human and less process soldiers lacking empathy and understanding. And this is why the frameworks fail us, right? So we have the side effects, and the ego and politics come in. And I love that it's, especially as a non-native, for me, lipstick on a pig is something so ridiculously funny. And so how many times this happens that we just really cover what we used to do with this new framework, and it's very superficial, but on the inside and deep down, everybody's just doing what they used to do. So this is, and then we have also those shadow systems that are stronger, the politics, the egos, this fight for control, which we already spoke about. And I especially see that, we spoke about also the parents and how we feel like, am I in control? What do I do? How do I make sure I'm in control? So agile and the frameworks, it depends. Some frameworks give you this control illusion, and some frameworks really are, like agile can be very scary. It seems like a chaos, but it was today that I spoke with Vasco Duarte, and he was saying like agile requires so much discipline, but we don't know, right? We think that it's just happy flower and everybody's self-organized and no rules, just fun. So this is also how sometimes we don't understand deeply what we are doing. We only understand the surface or not understand it, and there we have all those side effects and problems. So there was also, so I'm trying to, as you see, to take it from all the possible angles so that it makes sense. So I remember, the Liberators and Christian Verwijs, one of them. They do a lot of, they are from the Netherlands, and they are both professional Scrum trainers, and they had they are community members, very successful ones as well. And they were doing a lot of surveys on the teams and how the collaboration works and how it's going. And they had this conclusion that in their interpretation is that the frameworks don't matter as much as we consider they do, because there are other factors at play that are far more important in shaping the success or failure. And that was especially in the context of SAFe, because you know how many people have many opinions about what SAFe is and what it isn't. And we could find here, like, yeah, maybe it's not as important as we consider it. Maybe you are blaming Agile for your ugly framework, but it's you who actually enforcing it, and in a way that it doesn't make sense for the people. So this is the moment where I think a lot about the psychological safety, what we know from the Aristotle project in Google, like trust, psychological safety. Those are far more important features or human symptoms, or what we do and how the environment we set, rather than just the framework that we decide, because those will be the determinators whether the framework works for us or it doesn't. And what is a framework really, right? So I'm talking all the time about the framework, and it's just a set of prescribed roles, events, artifacts, and some principles. And it's a blueprint that was supposed to help teams organize and work. And I wrote it at some point that you will never find me fighting for a framework. To me, Agile or Scrum was never a goal in its own, but you will find me championing this delivery of value through iterative manner and feedback loops. And I think that's the most important part of it all. And the collaboration of people. So it's always back to the collaboration. So what can this glue role do to avoid all of these anti-patterns and everything that we just saw? So this was the feedback that I got, and I thought I will just use it to explain. So Maria drives, understands the problems and the complexity of solutions, and tries to help unblock and move things forward. And I think this really is like a very short description of what a glue role should do. If you want another one, there is one from Barry Overeem, but really it's from Google and his search in ChatGPT. And I really resonate with this one. It's like the role connects different parts of the organization and ensuring smooth team communication. So it's about communication. It's really important that we communicate that, especially when I work with those. I work in a company where you have the architects, you have different value streams, you have different team of teams, you can call them. And you have this UX structure there, architects in another place. You have the teams, and they all, sometimes so much is happening, but they never arrive. It's just not communicated. People don't know. And that's why the communication, I think, is very important part of the role. Then we have collaboration that we spoke about already quite a lot, and integration. So integrating people together and into one common being. And glue roles are essential in implementing change and solving systemic issues that impact multiple departments. And that's the key for me, especially if you think about this roles like that manage and influence and collaborate with team of teams, with the bigger structures. Sometimes it's really, it can be such a chaos. It can be so many people running around that this really becomes a need for this glue role and for making some sense of the chaos that it can prevail there. So, and here I would like to mention quickly what a TPM role is, because I find it very uncommon in the Europe, whereas it's quite common in the United States. So a TPM is a technical project manager, but it's technical. So usually the TPMs, it's like a program manager, but for more technical platform connected initiatives. So you have a person, when you imagine a GDPR, right? A few years back, we all had to implement GDPR. And suddenly you need somebody that will just drive this overall initiative that every team is probably involved. And not only that R&D, it's probably something from somebody from digital and from marketing and so on and so forth. So it's somebody that will drive this program that is spanning a lot of different people, departments, teams that are not very used to collaborate together. And I think in this precise, that's why sometimes when you think people started doing all those layoffs and so many agile coaches and scrum masters lost their jobs. Maybe that's true for those small companies that everybody does everything. But if you are in a big enterprise, there is just such a big need for this glue role that will help all those different parts come together. And it's really important to have this the person that will drive. So what I wrote before and the feedback I got, it's like you are driving it. You're not waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. You have this objective that's and it usually has a very tight deadline, like GDPR is coming into place, you have to have it or there will be a huge fine. So you just have to start structuring everything and do this from scratch and just know what needs to be done. So this is for me something that gives me this certainty that those roles will be needed, and even more right now when so much is happening. And yeah, so we go to these patterns to follow. So of course, in that workshop and in that survey, we also got there were some people that were doing a great job in the role. Maybe less than the majority of them were like that, but it was very interesting to see what they were doing that people resonated with them and liked working with them. And that was, first of all, it was curiosity. So being curious, asking questions like the why until you die, basically. But, it's so important to, like, if you understand why you're doing something, I always stress this because it's, for me, the leadership is so much about setting the context and the goals and the strategy and knowing why we are doing things, because I need my why. Otherwise, I will feel that my work is useless and I will never be able to force myself to do something if I don't know why I'm doing it. So this is also great to understand, okay, this is important because of that, and that's the context, and I can set the context for the teams. And then we have also helps when lost in translation. I like this one especially because I'm Polish, my language is different than this one. Then I also live in Spain and I also speak that language, and it's just and then I go to a company where I'm this neutral person. Nobody's from Poland. Everybody is either from like the US, Spain, or Portugal. And it's good to be in this moment where you see like, I think we are not talking about the same thing here, even though we consider that we know where to go. And finding those moments of, okay, I think we still need to do some more work before we go in front of the teams and tell them to work. Because, what the architects say and then what the engineering manager say is totally different thing when you really start listening and being curious about it. And then the role also owns the ownership, which is, we are there to help. We want people to self-organize, self-manage, to collaborate, to do their work together. And we want them to take ownership of that work. We don't want them to just give us the report. We want them to own their plans and come back to us when they're ready. And this fosters as well the connections. There are aligns, which basically is that we know what to do. Everybody's aligned and on the same page. Fosters collaboration, communicates, we talked about it already, and influences. So influence is also quite an important part of this role. and when especially to use the glue. So when I think about that is when you see handovers and silos, which is basically the same thing. So you have the developer like, yeah, developed, bye, this is yours now. And if especially I see it between developers and QAs, the quality engineers, that's like, that's not how we should do things. So this really is showing this lack of collaboration. And then the rules that are crushing creativity, the enthusiasm and joy of the work, and the chaos abounds. So sometimes we just go and we see so much chaos, which I explained already, like headless chickens are everywhere. What do we do? Like, okay, calm down, we can find a way, this will be okay. If we've done it not once. And then there's also fear, and that's probably the hardest part, when we know that trust is hard to find and respect even harder, and we see the culture of this command and control that inspires fear. That's probably the hardest part to overcome, but still we've been there and we can help with that too. Well, so coming to an end of all of this, what now? Why are, after talking so much that I'm almost lost my voice, what do we do now? So, what can I say? Life's about choices, right? So, we have so many choices, but I just decided to come down to 3 choices that you have, okay? That's all. So, first choice, stick to what you have. So, there is what there is. The company works as they work. Doesn't matter if they do Kanban, Scrum, Safe, Waterfall, or like Water, Scrum, Fall, Kanban, and everything in between. We just employ GRU roles to create some cross-functional flow and increase collaboration and see what can happen. So that's one of my favorite options, but that's an option. That's a choice. And sometimes maybe we just need to go with it. And then we have second option, which is totally against what I'm talking here about, but use frameworks, right? There will be. So sometimes we also, I noticed that not all battles are worth fighting for, right? So sometimes we are like, okay, there's this safe, bring it on. So I will just employ a glue role, which in that case will probably be a release trained engineer, to help onboard people on those frameworks. It doesn't matter what kind of framework somebody decided to use in that company. If we cannot change that decision, we just go with it and we try to do what we can with them. And we can start customizing the frameworks, it's like a forbidden thing for a while. And I think somebody from the Scrum community cannot be super happy with me, but Scrum can also be done not in its all, like maybe you just need a sprint and you like having a sprint goal, but you don't really love doing sprint reviews and the retrospectives every sprint. And maybe you just do them once a month. And I think really I have this pragmatic part in me that I can't just do stuff that is not worthwhile. And then, well, we just do it as we do it. I know that Scrum is like, either you do Scrum or you don't do it. If you don't do one of the things that's in the Scrum guide, you're not doing Scrum. That has been so long there that I think it's part of the problem that we are currently facing. So employ GRU roles and try to customize the frameworks that you have. And the third option here is the start from employing a GRU role. Like, okay, hello, this is the person that has lived through many different frameworks and flows and organizations, and they will use their, let's call it collaboration master chef toolkit to help the organization slowly change the processes in the way that it really fits, in a way that can be driven by the culture and the way we are organized, not to mention the architecture of the product, because sometimes that's a big determinator, right? And we see where that takes us. And when I was creating the presentation last year, I made a workshop that was called Facilitation Master Chef. So now I had to do a collaboration Master Chef. And I really think, when I think about this glue role and would like to think about, okay, how can I really help people to understand better what we can do? It's, first of all, it's what we said before, and that was more on those soft skills. It's like curiosity, be curious, ask questions, understand, like talk to the architects, talk to the developers, understand the technical solution they are creating, so that you can really help in the conversation when you see that it's not going in the right direction. Even though you are not I'm not a technical person, but I can understand high level what is going on and what Kubernetes and all the cloud structure means, and where are we doing the platform engineering now, and so on. So it really helps. Then adaptability is probably one of the characteristics that will make you forever employable. Proactivity and understanding. And then we have a lot of things, and those are my favorite toolkits. So like flow improvement. So, because I'm the Kanban trainer, I will always tell you about flow and flow metrics and how that can help, and how reducing your work in progress will help you to actually get something done. We also have DORA metrics and Scrum. Not all of it, but parts of it. User story mapping, PI planning. Like, we can use user story mapping in the PI planning. Like, oh my God, that's like my brain explodes. But yeah, why not? Can we do something agile to PI planning and have the teams decide at least at the how of the part of you give them a feature, but they can still make something that they decided something in that feature, how they will implement it, right? So that can be done. Goal setting, Scrum of Scrums, change management, and this facilitation mastership. But here, what I would like to just highlight for a moment is the shuhari. And you probably know it. Is when we train martial arts, there is this approach that, first of all, you have to follow the rule. It's the shu. We follow the rule. We do exactly what's said because we don't know what it is. We need to follow the rule. Once we get to we really well follow the rule, we get to the next level and we can break the rule. And we are like, okay, now I can do this kick in this other way and then do another one, and I will do my own. I will break some rules. And the third one is when you master the rule. So when you create your own rule. I'm just reading that somebody strongly disagrees, but I think there is this part of, because I'm talking about it, I consider that we start as big tech and tech industry, we already followed the rule for long enough to know it. We know Scrum very well. It's really hard to find somebody that's not even worked in Scrum. We know some parts of Kanban because, of course, sometimes we just think it's a board. But we already worked in Agile for long enough that we are now ready to start breaking the rule and maybe set our own rule. And this, of course, depends on the company and their level of advancement. There are still companies that don't know Agile, but when you are in this moment of you already know the rule so well, go ahead and break it. Go ahead and make it yours. And I really encourage that. I really believe this is a great way to do it. And then just quick note about the internal influences, because these roles in the end are like influence, but in the organization. And we need those internal networks of influencers. We need to know how everything works, and we need to be able to see people for where they are in this curve, of the innovators and the difference. So for me, it's very important to see, like, whenever I have a person that we are implementing something new, there's a process in place, always try to find the person that will give me the most no's and the most no because. It really helps so much to implement something without all of the, they will give you everything that can go wrong. And it's just like a gift. And I treat it like a gift. So instead of being like, oh, those people, they are always detractors, they don't want to change. For me, it's like, yeah, I will embrace what they tell me, because probably what they tell me can really help make it better for everyone. And maybe there's some truth in what they say. Of course there is. So we can make it together. And I always try to include those that voice their opinions the loudest. I try to include them on this way of transformation, change management, because they will be, and then they will become the early adopters or even the innovators, and they will help you bring other peoples together on the path. So everything is dead now, and we are in this situation that we consider like, the future is very uncertain. AI and robots will rule the world soon. But well, the key takeaways from here is, let's understand how we can still provide value. And that means however we can understand it, and whatever we want to see as a goal. Is it a glue role? Can we unframework a bit our organization? We can understand better why the choices of the framework and the framework fatigue. Then we also have those anti-patterns that we can avoid, and trying not to get to this point of frameworks made me do it. And I really like to embrace the shuhari for the collaboration and how we can really start breaking the rule and setting our own rule and creating this network of internal influencers and also outside. Like, we are here because we care, right? We care about the future. We care about making this future worthwhile for all of us. And we take our time to come here and learn and share. So this always is such a big plus for me. And this moment of, okay, there are people who still care, still come, still innovate, and that's the way to go. So thank you so much. I will give you some time for Q&A now. And I will also ask you for some feedback. If you could, I would really appreciate it. There was so many messages I couldn't. Sometimes I was just distracted and looking at the messages just in the chat to like, oh, maybe there will be something that it really resonates with what I say. So please give me feedback. Let's consider it like continuous improvement. That talk is worthwhile, or maybe it's trash and I should just stop telling it to anyone. So I would love to know. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or just, share your thoughts.
Anybody have any questions? Last time I asked a few, took up the time. Anybody have any questions before I ask a few questions?
Said it all. Yeah, I felt like I'm talking too much. Maybe I just said it all. There's nothing else to add.
No, this was great. And I think there's been obviously a lot of discussion around, frameworks in general and Scrum in general. And, I see Ian saying, Scrum is mediocre at best or something like that. A lot of things, but, it's interesting. And I'm looking forward to continue this discussion with panelists for our next session. But Where do we go from here? Why do we see, like, one of the things, Maria, that you said is collaboration. And I agree, there's almost not a lot of good collaboration. Like most people are disengaged at work. Most people don't give a crap. Like, they're finding other ways uh, to get
Yeah.
cognitively stimulated with things that they actually enjoy doing. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear others. What do they think? Where do you think we're going from here, based on what you're seeing in the
Yeah, I would love to hear because, I don't know if you also noticed so much of like complacency recently, especially in the teams. Sometimes I feel like it's like you go to a meeting, everybody's like, this is terrible. Sorry, but we are doing this. It's like, yeah, yeah, I know. I'm sorry for asking this, but I have to ask you to do this. And it's like we all are, is it like, why don't we do something to change it? We just do what's being told. And my I thought about it today and I thought, is it because of the layoffs that people don't feel so free anymore, that you might get laid off here, or you go to another company and will be the first one to be laid off, so you are stuck. Al, happy to hear your
Yeah,
thoughts.
I liked your focus on the glue, the cross seams. I think where we're going is a recognition that people who can just follow a framework, and actually there are different kinds of frameworks, but I agree with you, the popular ones in Agile are as you described. I sometimes try to call my approach not a framework, but it's a framework like physics, so it's a different kind of thing. But
Mhm.
the point is that uh, the getting a team to work should be an easy thing now. It's the interactions. I like the need for glue is an indication you have silos. And AI is going to be good and bad. And in fact, I just announced yesterday my teaming with HANA Prodigy as my AI tool I'll be using. The good is it's going to get answers. The bad is twofold. It's going to get mediocre answers if it's just based on like Chat GPT. And the reason is stuff that was known 25 years ago is still in there. And it doesn't know how to tell good or bad. So what I like to see is like what I'm doing and also what like Wolfram Mueller with Blue Dolphin is doing and a few others, where you take your body knowledge, you put it in an AI tool so you can get it easily, but it's good stuff. The other bad thing, though, is I think managers are going to think, oh, well, we've already been seeing that agile coaches aren't needed now with AI. I really don't need them. I don't need a lot of developers. Now, that's wrong, but that's what is going to be thought. I think the bar for what a coach needs to be has just gone up an order of magnitude. Now, and I think this part is a good thing, even though, yeah, it'll cost some people jobs, but it's just we're learning and we're going into a new industry. Coaches need to guide, not merely facilitate. This idea that coaches should step back and let the teams figure it out, in my experience, is absurd. I've been in Agile 25 years when XP came out in 99. We didn't have a name for it, but that's what it was. And coaches need to guide in a way by asking questions, by understanding human nature, by understanding the problem. And this means you have to study more so the team doesn't have to work so hard learning things. And that's why I like the glue metaphor. The teams can still be where they are. Maybe you move them around a little bit, you create glue. It's that inner team problem that's the bigger problem.
Oh yeah, that resonates a lot with me. And some of the feedback that I got when it was the anti-patterns was precisely that they are just a mere facilitator. So it's like totally out of the theme of what's going on, and that's lack of understanding. So, oh, you only facilitate. I don't know what's going on. And that was a big problem. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, there's a question in chat. Uh, Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Bia, Bia, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
How are you balancing creating the psychological safe environment and providing results? I've been told that ability to create psychological safe environment isn't desirable, and it seems that you can't have results without ability to be candid. How do you speak for that when met with resistance?
Such a good one, right? And that I don't have a perfect answer for that. It's very hard. And it also, to me, it so much depends on the mindset of the person that's saying this. So it's more about understanding. I feel it's always kind of a fear that you need to understand what's this person fear? This leader that says that they don't want psychological safety, like, and then you see also how incongruent it is, because if you talk about you need candidness, but that psychological safety is there to give you this option to fail and to be candid and say, oh, I messed up. It is where we become honest. It's where we lack psychological safety, is where most people will just find ways to hide and not maybe show the real state of the development. And that happens so many times. I found it so much when there is fear, people try to game the system. They will game the system. I gamed the system when I was in high school. I had no clue about maths anymore, but I knew how to game the system. And I was I had really good grades. I had no clue. I only knew geometry because that was like easy for me. So we are so good in gaming the system. And that's, I think, I would just try to understand better that leader and show them maybe some good practices. And I never saw that as a problem. I saw teams really well, really fast, really well collaborating, where there was a lot of psychological safety. And we started doing maybe this. We shared some fails and it was open and people could just say it, that something went wrong and it's okay. So I think there is a contradiction in that person's opinion.